literally look at the birth rate. You know, it's like, it's an objective number. Like how many kids, babies were born. It's like they record this information, you know? It's like, how many kids do you guys have?
I don't know. I got no kids.
I mean, that we know of.
None of you guys have any? What?
I'm 28, but I mean,
I'm 20.
I guess I
20
could.
is reasonable. Yeah, that's fair.
I've been thinking of it.
I'm trying to get a baby mama soon, but
yeah.
And I just got married last month. She's over there.
Okay, hey, congrats. I know. I have a lot of friends of mine, especially, you know, like know a lot of women that have not had kids and like not planning to type of thing. And I'm like, man, I'm worried about I think that's the biggest risk to civilization right now. It's just we got to get rid of this nonsense that we're having an overpopulation issue. We have an underpopulation issue.
I say in most of these videos, just like conservative men are not okay, but just conservatives are acting really weird. Like, I know we all hate conservative ideology, but I think social media has just made them like utterly insane. So my boy Elon tweeting, it should be considered a national emergency to have kids. And the queen of the libs of TikTok saying, I come from a family of 8. I plan to have a lot of kids. We're going to outbreed the left. Then we're going to homeschool, send our kids to private schools so they can't be groomed into becoming activists for leftist causes. So yeah, it's safe to say conservatives continue to be weird in regards to the issue of having children. And obviously, I feel terrible for any child who's going to be born into this person's life, or anyone who's a child of Elon Musk, because you just have two terrible parents right there who are probably going to leave you with a whole host of issues automatically just because of what they believe. But today, I never thought I'd be making a sequel to a video I made in 2022 about Elon Musk's obsession with breeding, which is just the most unhinged thing ever. Now, in this video in 2022, I went much more into the arguments about like population growth and is population growth or decrease a good or a bad thing? And watching it back today, it is funny. I always predict the future. I'm always right. I was right about Mr. Beast. I'm right about Taylor Swift. I was right about Elon years ago. I say in the video, although the stuff he's saying about having kids doesn't appear to be like a racist thing right now, I'm pretty sure at some point he is going to endorse like white replacement theory.
He did not evolve to mourn the unborn, but we should. I'm talking about not having kids in the first place. That's the problem. Doing my best to help the underpopulation crisis. A collapsing birth rate is the biggest danger civilization faces by far. US birth rates have been below sustainable levels for 50 years. Contrary to what many think, the richer someone is, the fewer kids they have. I am a rare exception. Most people I know have 0 or 1 kid. Civilization sterilized. The past 2 years have been a demographic disaster. I mean, I'm doing my part. So there honestly seems like really, really creepy. And from the surface, it actually feels like he's pandering to right-wing Americans, because when he's talking about like demographic changes, it seems like he's dog whistling towards like replacement theory. I wouldn't be surprised if he came out in support of that at some point.
And what do you know? It's pretty much all he bangs on about on his Twitter account. So again, as my history teacher once said to me when I was 16, Kavernacle, you're ahead of your time. And I guess I am. And I guess I am right about most things when it comes to right-wing idiots like Elon. But I just wanted to expand upon that video a bit more today, because a recent report has come out that not only is Elon a total weirdo in very public places, he also uses his position at SpaceX to ask female employees to have his children. And you guys will remember he actually had children with someone who worked for him at Neuralink as well, because this guy obviously has some sort of kink around having children, but also it's part of a crazy billionaire ideology we've seen in other people like Jeffrey Epstein, which I want to talk about as well today. So all of that coming up for you today. Please follow me on social media. Check out my Instagram pages, my personal and my travel one. Follow me on Threads and follow me on Blue Sky. And also consider becoming a patron. I'm trying to build up as many $1 to $3 patrons as possible. The benefits include getting access early to these videos for the most part, and of course you can watch them ad-free on Patreon itself. And you also get access to the Discord server where you can interact with me more and just other people who subscribe to the Patreon page. But let's get into the video. So let's quickly frame this video. And like I said, in the 2022 video I made about this subject, even focusing on Elon, I went over this in more detail because a lot of rich people have said in the past, there are too many people on the planet. There's just too many people to sustain human life. And they're right in that our current economic model cannot be sustained with as many people as we have, but of course it's pointing it at the complete wrong direction. So I remember, I think it was like Prince William said this about people in Africa having too many kids. And of course, when we talk about things like population growth or places where there's too many people talk about, you know, India, Pakistan, Bangladesh, China. But what I argued in the video is you're blaming the amount of people, but we all know in terms of like the global south versus the global north, who has more of an impact on the environment and on climate change, and it's by far people who live in the West. Now, your carbon footprint and your impact on the environment will be significantly more than most people across the whole African continent and most people in South Asia. But you won't get blamed for having like too many kids and stuff, even though how many kids you have has more of an impact than how many kids people have in other parts of the world that get demonized, because we don't have a population problem. We do on this earth have enough resources, food, all the rest of it for everyone who currently lives to actually live a sustainable life and not die from preventable things like, for example, poverty or malnourishment, right? We do have enough of that. It's just our economic model makes life's basic necessities into commodities for profit. So if you're doing that, you start wasting food, or you don't make enough to feed people, or in the case of things like COVID, and I used this photo in the last one, you just let food rot instead of putting it on the global marketplace because you don't want to hurt your prices. So it's clear for most people who point the problem at population growth for the world's problems, it's not the population, it's the population with the current economic model. Now, that's what a lot of rich people say, and of course, they don't blame the economic model that they benefited from, they blame the people, and everyone should stop having kids. But Elon Musk bucks the trend in that he tells people, no, we should have more children. Look at Japan, look at Ukraine, look at places where there is a population decrease. And again, with the capitalist argument, even if we're talking about like aging populations and stuff like that, it is still all because our society is modeled around infinite growth, right? And infinite profit, because you could, in theory, restructure a country that has an aging population to still make that sustainable. Like I said, if we didn't live under a capitalist system, and of course Japan has solutions to its problems, like they could relax immigration laws, but they don't seem like they want to do that right now. If they want to continue to maintain their role as a massive economic power in the world, that's what they'd have to do. And if they don't have to do that, they'd have to deal with the consequences. But the problem with Elon is he doesn't talk about specific countries. He doesn't talk about Ukraine and Japan as one-offs. He talks about the whole world. He says we need so many more people.
No, we have an underpopulation problem.
Really?
Yeah.
Why do you
So
say
this
that?
is the most commonly misunderstood situation.
Yeah.
Well, I think people really, we've got to turn this around. We've got to have at least replacement rate, if not more, on the baby front. And by the way, these are not matters that are subjective. You can just literally look at the birth rate.
Yeah.
You know, it's like it's an objective number. Like how many babies were born. It's like they recorded this information. You know.
Now, in my other video, I talk about this in terms of, you know, capitalist class believing we need workers forever. We need slaves forever. How am I going to continue to make as much money as possible if the birth rate decreases and I don't have as many workers and stuff like that? That's how these people view it in some ways, along with their narcissism and just their general worldview about their own genetics, which I want to save for a bit later. But just for a reminder before we get into Elon's more recent scandal about what he's been up to at SpaceX, let's remind you that Elon has a lot of children and he's also a deadbeat dad as well. So this is a few years ago, but Elon Musk has revealed the name of the twin children he shares with Siobhan Zillis. In an excerpt of Musk's upcoming biography, author Walter Isaacson wrote that the Tesla CEO, 52, and the Neuralink executive, 37, named their 16-month-old twins Strider and Azure, and they were born in November 2021. So that's one person who worked with, and I guess you'd say worked for Musk, that he had kids with. Of course, he also had children with Grimes, and he has a lot of children from previous relationships. I think he has like 10 or 11 children at this point. And yeah, you might think it's weird that he has twin children with a woman he's pretty much like never been in a relationship with, and he's a deadbeat dad to his various other children. Remember, one of his children as well changed her name and got rid of Musk because she hates him so much, and that's how bad of a father he is. And also, recently, Grimes' lawyers have been chasing Musk around to get child support because, again, this guy doesn't actually care about, providing for his children. He cares just about having them because, in my opinion, it's all about eugenics. And there was an article a while back interviewing his dad, who was talking about, maybe having loads of other kids with other women he didn't know about. Some random company was talking about like paying him and Elon for their sperm to make other mini Elons, and Elon's dad thinking that was a good thing. And yeah, billionaires do think their sperm contains some sort of inherent traits which will make their offspring superior to the rest of us, because how else would someone like Elon Musk rise to the role of one of the world's most rich men? Must be something within his genetics. Must not be anything to do with who funded him, being born into massive wealth in apartheid South Africa. No, it's all down to Musk's DNA. But this is a news story in the Wall Street Journal, and I suggest people go read it. Because, yeah, Musk is a creep, no surprise there. But it goes into a bit more detail about the relationships he had at SpaceX. So, Elon Musk's boundary-blurring relationships with women at SpaceX. So, when Elon Musk personally contacted a former SpaceX engineering intern to discuss a role on his executive staff in 2017, the woman spoke with excitement to her friends about a high-profile, problem-solving role at the rocket company, a dream for someone a few years out of college. She and Musk had met years earlier during her internship while she was still in college. She approached him with ideas for improving SpaceX. Her outreach had led to a date, which led to a kiss, and eventually sex, she told friends. The year after her internship, the billionaire had the fresh college graduate flown out to a resort in Sicily before they ended things, according to documents reviewed by the Wall Street Journal. So remember, Elon Musk is like over 20 years older than this person as well, and using his position at SpaceX to basically like date women, as if we really expected anything else. But of course, it is like completely gross behavior. Musk attempted to restart the relationship, but she rejected him. They remained close as she tried to establish herself in the new job. He texted her often and invited her to come over to his LA mansion at night on multiple occasions. Sometimes she did, but her friends said she told them at the time that his behavior made her job harder. She eventually moved off his executive team and left the company in 2019. And she said at no point during her employment at SpaceX from 2017 to 2019 there was any romantic relationship. She is one of several female employees at SpaceX who have told friends, family, or the company itself that Musk showed them an unusual amount of attention or pursued them. One woman, a SpaceX flight attendant, alleged that in 2016, Musk exposed himself to her and offered to buy her a horse in exchange for sex acts. Another woman who left the company in 2013 alleged in exit negotiations with SpaceX human resources and legal executives that Musk had asked her to have his babies. Now, like I said, this guy clearly has some sort of breeding kink. He doesn't seek out any like romantic relationships with women. He just sees them as a vassal for his offspring, right? This person reporting that he'd asked her that, and Musk treating that other person like a hookup. Musk and that Neuralink exec who had his twins. Again, considering he's such a deadbeat dad, it's not surprising he doesn't actually take any interest in the women beyond them being able to have his kids. So another one, a fourth woman had a month-long sexual relationship with Musk in 2014. The relationship ended badly,
leading to recriminations over text and email as she left the company and signed an agreement prohibiting her from discussing her work for Musk. Former SpaceX executives, as well as fired SpaceX employees who complained to the National Labor Relations Board in 2022, say a high-level group around Musk fails to apply his company's own rules to the CEO, contributing to a culture of sexism and harassment. But if you read more in the article, it just goes on to show you more about the relationship he had with that, you know, uni grad, and just him texting her and just being like really, really desperate. It is like really, really sad. He basically dumps her because she doesn't come around for a booty call at like midnight. But yeah, it's really not surprising to anyone that Elon Musk would do this. And it's not surprising that no one holds him accountable. Like, he basically is the face of all these companies. You think people internally who he rules over are going to come out against him? This is as much information as you're going to find out people who used to work there anonymously sharing with the media what they saw. But yeah, it's clear this guy just has a gross fascination with trying to get women pregnant. And he said in another thing I read recently that having sex with protection is just like completely pointless. And who would that be pointless to? It wouldn't be pointless to most people because you might not want to get an STI, or, you know, you don't want to have children with everyone you sleep with. But if you're Elon Musk and you don't have any responsibility to these kids because you're one of the richest men on earth, so at the very most, you can just pay these people to look after the children and have nothing to do with them. And even in that, he runs away from paying for Grimes' kids. Then yeah, you have no responsibility. But if you believe in some weird fascist ideology and white replacement, then you feel like it's your responsibility to do this. And I made a video a while ago. Matt Walsh was really angry at people not having children. And I think what he said in this video, and I covered it, was just so revealing about the conservative mindset around this stuff. They literally think life is Assassin's Creed. They think your offspring carry like your legacy through them, and that's your responsibility to your bloodline. It's just so incredibly fascist, all of it.
We don't have to ask our family for financial help or to watch our kid when we want to go out.
We're dinks. We're going to go to Costco and buy all the snacks in bulk that we want.
They're so dedicated to this calling, so intent on consumption, that they are willing to end their own bloodlines to pursue it. His ancestors fought and struggled and persevered and pioneered and bled and suffered, all so that he could exist, all for him. And he turns back to those people, to his ancestors, to his blood, and he says, yeah, sorry guys, we're done. We're done here. I'm going to end the bloodline right here. I'd rather have some extra spending cash to buy Doritos, I've decided. He stands now at the end of a procession that stretches back into the ancient past. We all do, right? Every single one of us. A line of people who made his very existence possible. Though, of course, I realize that this man would be totally mystified by the notion that he has any responsibility at all to his family, his ancestry, his bloodline, because happiness comes from fulfillment, and fulfillment comes from doing that which you are made to do. Happiness comes from fulfilling your purpose in life.
So yeah, when you hear people like Matt Walsh talk like that and Elon talk like that, I mean, it's pretty clear it comes from like a racist place anyway. Like, they're talking about their bloodlines, and because these people are both, in my opinion, like white nationalists too, then yeah, you know where they're coming from. But also the eugenics of just being like smarter than everyone else and having kids because you want to have mini versions of yourself to like conquer the world. You can't discount that part. And like I said, with billionaires who own like loads of businesses and rely on all these workers, you can also view it for that angle. But an article came out in 2022 when I first covered this. I just want to read it a little bit because it was talking about all these things that we're talking about today on Wired. The real reason Elon Musk wants you to have more babies. If people don't have more children, civilization is going to crumble, proclaimed Musk from a Tesla factory late last year, mark my words. Musk spoke his truth at a Wall Street Journal event while hyping up his proposed Tesla bot, an android that performs grunt work. Only a bot army, he said, can meet the corporate need for laborers willing to work without rest, meals, or complaints. But until the bots are up and running, Musk's Squid Game still needs flesh and blood workers. The fundamental constraint is labor, Musk said. There are not enough people. I can't emphasize this enough. There are not enough people. One of the biggest risks to civilization is the low birth rate. And when I'm reading Musk's comment in regards to like labor and stuff like that, and I actually said this in my original video, and people said that
I was reaching too much. I said Elon Musk reminds me of Neander Wallace and reminds me of Tyrell from the Blade Runner movies, which I know he likes. And part of Wallace's character is he wants like humans to basically spread out among the stars and colonize even more territory than they already have. And to do that, you basically need a slave labor force. And how does he aim to create that? Well, he aims to create that through, of course, mass producing replicants. But also, the interest in the movie he has is he thinks he's found a pair of replicants that can have children. And he wants to know how they've done this because it was an invention of Tyrell and it's been lost. So he can make his own replicants have the ability to have children to become a self-populating, labor force forever for this billionaire's profits and for his vision of humanity. And like I said, people were saying I was reaching, but when I got home from traveling, I bought Blade Runner on DVD and I watched the extra features. And weirdly enough, and this must have been filmed in 2017, Jared Leto actually said in a behind-the-scenes interview that his Neander Wallace performance and just character is inspired by Elon Musk, which just felt like really, really weird and like vindicating because reading all this weird baby stuff he's talking about and like how we need more people, and as a guy who loves science fiction and loves Blade Runner like Musk apparently does, it just like all connected in my head. This is why he wants more humans. He just wants infinite labor for infinite profit and for his ego, basically, because this is a guy who wants to do things like colonize Mars, and you can't really do that if you don't have loads of people willing to go on this dangerous journey, put up with your conditions, and do this intensive work to make this planet habitable for humans. But another factor, and something he doesn't elaborate on too much, but I think is linked as well. So Jeffrey Epstein was a very strange man. And he was strange and gross and disgusting for all the reasons most people knew. But I was listening to podcasts about him like before his death and a lot afterwards. And just how strange he was really came across. And when I started listening to Elon talking about having so many children, this really came into my mind. So an article on the New York Times in 2019, Jeffrey Epstein hoped to seed human race with his DNA. By impregnating women at his vast New Mexico ranch, Mr. Epstein over the years confided to scientists and others about his scheme, according to 4 people familiar with his thinking, although there is no evidence that it ever came to fruition. Mr. Epstein's vision reflected his long-standing fascination with what has become known as transhumanism, the science of improving the human population through technologies like genetic engineering and artificial intelligence. Critics have likened transhumanism to a modern-day version of eugenics, the discredited field of improving the human race through controlled breeding. So, of course, the way Epstein was talking about this like ranch thing makes it seem like far more mechanical, sinister, and gross. But in theory, in my opinion, it sounds similar to Elon Musk in that they both think their DNA carries something with them that made them so special, and made them so special in the realms of business. So the human race would be better if only we had more Elon Musks or Epsteins ruling over us, while everyone else has loads of other kids. And because they're not as good as Musk or Epstein, then they're just going to become the future servants, aren't they, for this new class. And there's so much science fiction being written about this type of thing. Things like Dune have that element as well. These like breeding programs, eugenics to create certain people being manipulated behind the scenes by, groups like the Bene Gesserit. And just knowing what Elon Musk is like with how much he loves sci-fi, I really wouldn't put past his breeding kink to be a symptom of his wider belief in these things. Increasing the human population to give people like him as many workers as possible, and also a weird thing about eugenics to create as many mini versions of him as possible because he thinks his DNA is key to, whatever, colonizing Mars, saving the planet. Does he even still want to do that? Recently, it doesn't seem so. So yeah, his breeding stuff is getting out of control, and it's obviously insanely gross that he's using his position of power over workers in places like SpaceX to actually carry this out and actually harass women to have his children, and there's basically no way to stop him. The only way, I guess, he could be stopped maybe is if lawsuits are brought against him for this harassment, But again, that's a very hard thing to both do in the first place with the threats coming from someone like Elon, but also having one of the best legal teams as well, and infinite money. Will he ever be held accountable for anything? You know, I highly doubt it. But anyway, that is it for the video. Let me know what you guys think down in the comments, and if you made it this far, thank you for watching.